Thursday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast. We streamed to Facebook and YouTube this morning, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Generally, when March rolls around and the days get longer and weather gets nicer, crime in Clinton tends to increase. It's often burglary to unlock vehicles and other petty crimes as people get out more, says Police Chief Ben Lowers. He sums it up, noting many people come out of their winter slumber realizing the neighbor they didn't like still lives next door.
Well, with the warmer weather, I have always said in years past, over the last couple decades, our busiest season or our busiest time of year is these first few weeks of warm weather in the spring. I think people kind of stretch their wings after the wintertime. They're coming outside. As I kind of humor, sometimes people realize the neighbors they might not have got along with last year still happen to live next door. And so we do have an increase in neighborhood problems and things like that. But it brings with it such a breath of fresh air, the warm weather. People outside, we see a lot more pedestrian traffic, a lot more bicycle traffic, starting to see motorcycles out already on those nicer days. So, with that comes a reminder of increased safety, especially in our residential neighborhoods, kids outside playing. You've heard me say over and over, kids don't play outside enough and they need to be out there. So getting fresh air, sunshine, getting dirty, I love to see that with the kids. So, but certainly be more cognizant when you're out driving around in our residential neighborhoods, of those kids, of that pedestrian traffic, things like that. But with that, we're also going to see, more pedestrian traffic and stuff, late night hours and things like that. And which brings us to our safety and our security of our home and our vehicles and things like that.
On the WHOW Morning Show Wednesday, Chief Lowers told Regional Radio most burglaries of motor vehicles are crimes of opportunity. He reminds residents to shut the windows and lock the doors of their vehicles.
We continue to deal with an incredible amount of vehicle burglaries, thefts from, yes, we live in a small town. We shouldn't have to lock our doors. We shouldn't have to live like we live in the inner city. But unfortunately, that's not our world today. And that's not our small community today. I just can't stress enough to lock those vehicles up, remove valuables, certainly remove firearms, things like that. In a meeting the other day, talking with the sergeants, one of our sergeants who's been on for 7 or 8 years, he made the comment that he had seen 2 firearms, seized or came into contact with 2 firearms over the course of his career up until last year. And last year, he believed it was 12.
Oh, my word.
And so we're seeing an increase in firearms with concealed carry and things like that. I'm certainly not advocating against, the possession of firearms. What I am advocating for is the responsible storage of such firearms. We've had a couple different situations in just the last couple of weeks where we've had a burglary to a residence where some firearms were taken. We had a burglary to a vehicle where a firearm was taken. And so these are the types of things that I just can't hound enough. I'm not blaming those victims. However, I'm just saying we've all got to do our part to be responsible, be overly responsible in not only firearms, but valuables, purses, wallets, money, electronics, cell phones, all of those things, take them out of the vehicles and for heaven forbid, lock those vehicles up.
Yeah.
We have had very few, I can count on one hand, the number of forced entry burglaries that we've had to vehicles. You just don't see it hardly ever. Not that it can't happen, but so many vehicles are equipped with alarms now. When they break through a glass window or force a door open or something, a lot of times that's going to activate an alarm. 99% of the vehicle burglaries that we see or the theft that we see is unlocked vehicles and unattended property.
Chief Lowers indicates with the changes in the judicial system of the last 2 or 3 years, criminals that are committing these crimes are not remaining in jail very long before they're back out on the streets committing similar crime.
We talked about this a couple months ago, and I can certainly get on a soapbox about it, but it's the system that we have to deal with some legislative changes. The abolishment of cash bond has not gone through yet. That is still being decided in the courts and things of that nature. But nonetheless, the entire system has kind of had a shift over the last 2 and 3 years. with the Bail Reform Act and things of that nature, we do have less criminals incarcerated. And so at the end of the day, that puts more criminals on the street, and we're dealing with that. We're seeing the effect of that in our communities, not only here in Clinton, Illinois, but all across the state. And so you'll have to ask the sheriff. I don't want to quote him, but he and I had a conversation some time ago, about the jail census. The jail census used to run 50, 60, 70 inmates. Now, some of those were federal inmates. But, now it's stretching to run between 5 and 10. It's not because of a reduction of crime. It's a reduction of incarceration. And so when you take that, let's take an additional 20 or 30 prisoners who, they commit a theft, they commit a trespass, they commit a disturbance or disorderly conduct. And we often would see them in jail for 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes up to a year, or sentenced to the Illinois Department of Corrections. Well, when those people serve 2 days in jail and then they're released, pending court appearances and things like that, quite frankly, that's 20, 30, 40 more, if we're going to label them criminals, that are loose on our streets. And they are continuing to commit crimes every day.
Right. According to Chief Flowers, the lack of incarcerated individuals who are chronic criminals means the typical lull in criminal activity has ceased in recent years.
As I touched on earlier, we talked about, or I always say that historically speaking, this is our busiest time of year. This first month of warm weekends and stuff like that. Typically 10 years ago, 15 years ago, early in my career, we would have days in January and maybe early February or late December when we had snow and whatnot that we may not get a call throughout a 24-hour period, and that just doesn't happen anymore. I mean, we are steadier now than we've ever been. This is still a busy time for us, an influx of calls, an influx of activity, but we don't necessarily have that winter lull that we used to historically have.
Chief Flowers also notes there have been a few more occurrences of home burglaries, so he implores homeowners and renters to lock all doors when they're not home. It's budget time for the city of Clinton. Tuesday night at the Clinton City Council meeting, Commissioner Tom Edmonds told the council the budget should be forthcoming from City Treasurer Clint Lichtenwalter.
Yes, we're getting down towards the end of the fiscal year, so the budget schedule will place the budget on file. You'll get it here shortly from Clint, but budget will be placed on file on the 4th of April, and then 2 weeks after that, the second meeting in April, we'll have the meeting to approve the budget. Like I said, he's just finishing getting it put together.
Commissioner Ken Buchanan notes city crews are out this week picking up tree branches and debris that were brought down by the storm Friday. He indicates the regular brush pickup cycle returns later this month.
Of course, you guys know we had that nice little windstorm, snowstorm last Friday. The guys been busy out. Of course, Friday putting barricades up, moved stuff back where they could. Worked Saturday, had a few trees crossed alleys and out sticking in the road and stuff, and they out working to clean that up. And this week they're out running since it was a storm. They're out picking up brush this week, and then in 2 weeks we'll start our brush regular monthly pickup. Right now we're waiving the size of the piles because of the storm. So if you got your stuff, get it out. Like I said, we'll be back again in 2 weeks picking up the regular.
Tuesday night, the council approved a 2-year agreement with Encore Developmental Services for city ground maintenance work at a cost of nearly $110,000. Clinton High School Thespians will be performing The Wizard of Oz this weekend. Savannah Burton is a senior in the show this year and is sharing the leading role as Dorothy along with sophomore Carly Earl. The two will split the performances of the lead in this production.
It definitely takes a lot of stress off of the roles because we get more time to practice for like off stage for Dorothy. And it takes a lot of stress off the other one because we are helping the other one change off stage for the quick changes. And so now we don't have to like find people to like help us out with that. We always have each other for it.
It's really cool. It can be stressful at times, but like it's a really cool experience. I mean, it's awesome getting to work with everyone else too and getting to learn all the songs. Have a lot to learn, but it's a lot of fun.
Eli Cooper is Oz in the production, and while he plays the great and powerful, he is also instrumental in the set creation of the performances.
I've got a lot of other stuff going on backstage, but I think we finally worked out all the kinks, and it's going smooth now. I've been working on set since about December, probably. We've started planning, and so the last few weeks we've really been hitting it hard and finishing up, and then I run the smoke machines the entire time, and I move stuff the entire time I'm not on. Luckily, we have 3 amazing stage managers, so I'm not on hand. I'm on deck for a lot of the pillars and stuff that move around. Those are modular, so we can have different sets and not have to have multiple pieces. They can be one thing. So luckily, those are easier to move, but it's been fun and interesting trying to store everything we don't have a lot of room backstage, so.
The production features a group of 4th through 8th grade students. Cooper says they have been enjoyable to work with during practice.
We have an amazing group of 4th through 8th graders who are also participating. So this is the second time in my experience, and I've been around this theater troupe for the last 10 years since my oldest sister started. And they used a couple kids in roles that needed to be cast as a child, but for our last show, Shrek, we had kids, and then for this show, we decided to use kids again. So they're all 4th through 8th grade. A lot of legacies, I guess you say, of people who have little sisters or little brothers or whatever who are coming in wanting to see what it was like, and it's amazing.
Other notable cast members in this weekend's production for the 7 p.m. shows Friday and Saturday are Addison Beebe as Scarecrow, Madison Koyak as Tin Man, and Emma Leimbach as Lion. For the 2 p.m. shows Saturday and Sunday, Evan Herman as Scarecrow, Ivory Treacle as Tin Man, Emma Sanders as Lion, and Ava Thierry as Oz. Friday night's performance is sold out. Tickets are limited for the Saturday and Sunday shows. Adults are $10. Students up to 12th grade are $5. Get more information on the Clinton High School Wizard of Oz Facebook page. Electronic cigarettes would be banned from indoor use under a bill that is cleared a Senate committee Wednesday. This year marks the 15th anniversary of the Smoke-Free Illinois Act. It needs to be updated to prohibit vaping indoors and within 15 feet of entrances, says Dr. Tabitha Wells, board chair for the Illinois Academy of Family Physicians.
Vaping products produce ultrafine airborne particles that can include heavy metals and volatile organic compounds, causing short-term changes and irritations. As a physician, I would never use the words safe alternative to smoking. We need to stop these myths and take vaping out of our public spaces.
Wells says e-cigs can be just as dangerous as regular smoking.
A lot of people think that the vapors, the secondhand, is just harmless water vapor. It's not. It does contain formaldehyde and other toxins, just like cigarette smoke does. So it does cause harm. We just don't have 50 plus years worth of data yet like we do for cigarettes.
The bill now moves to the Senate floor for a vote. Get the latest in local news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. We stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Cleveland.